My father wants me to stop going to college because I need to raise my nephews so that my sister can go back to school. My brother and I ditched them for good. We come from a patriarchal, conservative Christian background, although we didn't really practice. But everything always had an obey your parents vibe. My parents are the oldest siblings in their families. My father's family all live within 20 minutes of my parents' home. All aunts/uncles are married, and I have 8 cousins on that side. My mother's family is originally from here as well but has all since left the area. We are from a Midwest state and are Caucasian. This whole fiasco started when my older sister Lisa was in college in the spring of 2020. Right before the virus shut down her college that March, she got pregnant after a party. In the fall of 2020, my senior year of HS, I started my college application process while my pregnant sister lived at home. Mike had finished school several years prior and had started his career about 90 minutes away from our hometown. Lisa gave birth to twins a few days after Thanksgiving 2020. In January 2021 I received my early acceptance to my dream school, nothing like Harvard but a highly rated public Ivy in my state. I had also gotten enough of a scholarship to cover the tuition. Obviously, I was ecstatic. Unfortunately, that was about to come crashing down. In May 2021, my parents told me that I could not go to school and that I needed to stay home to raise my nieces while my sister went back to school since she needed to support her kids and thus needed a better education. My sister doesn't even want to return to school. Much screaming ensued, with my father eventually telling me that his decision was final and that was that. Mike learned what happened, called me, and said, "Yeah, that's not happening," and we made plans. I would like to take a moment to give a shout out to the Reddit posts back in early 2021 that discussed the steps to take and things/docs to gather in order to successfully leave home for good. And that's what we did. We had discussed plans a few times when he visited and took me out to lunch, and one day that July I had my essentials all packed, left a letter for our parents, and after lunch, we just returned to his apartment. As you can imagine, the fallout was explosive. Starting with angry calls and texts led to us both being disowned by the family for being disloyal. Mike had predicted this, and we were both prepared for it, so it wasn't a surprise. Anyway, that August he paid my remaining school balance and dropped me off at my dorm, and I have been living and studying here since then. He has continued to pay my room/board and whatever else scholarships didn't cover ever since. I cannot thank him enough for what he has done for me. Since then, we have had pretty much no contact with our parents, sister, and all aunts/uncles and grandparents on dad's side. I am still in contact with 2 cousins who support me and think we made the right decision. We do have contact with mom's side and have both flown out to Oz the last 2 holiday seasons to spend with them. This past holiday is when Aunt Kay first talked to me about her concerns for Mike that she noticed. They are very close, so they are like siblings, and I guess she picked up on some things that were off. The issue I need help with: Aunt Kay and I have noticed him seemingly becoming more depressed and isolated, and this is why I am hoping for some help in helping him. Mike is somewhat introverted and has always had a very small social circle, and a lot of his social outlet was with our extended paternal family. There were family BBQs very often, especially during football season when it was pretty much weekly. Throw in holidays, birthdays, etc. There were probably 2 big family events a month minimum. Mike could attend most of those, and he always tried to hang out with my dad and uncles even though they always acted lukewarm to him. With that now gone for the past 18 months, he hasn't really had that outlet. So please Reddit, any advice would be appreciated. He gave me my life back, and I need to find a way to do the same for him. Update: Mike came down here on Saturday as planned. I had spoken to my Aunt Kay before this, and she thinks if I gently asked direct questions and probed he would answer. So that was my plan. My roommates knew the situation and what I was planning to do, and they understood and agreed to give us the appointment for the afternoon. After he arrived and we ate, I just told him that Aunt Kay and I had noticed some changes in his behavior and that he seemed really down. He looked at me for a bit and then slowly nodded and agreed. This was a sign that he would be open and honest with me. I said that I wanted to help him and to please be open and talk to me and that I wouldn't judge him for anything. He said okay. Then I pulled out my laptop and mentioned that I had made a post to Reddit about him, and he gave me a very confused look. I sat down next to him and asked him to just read it, and we could talk about it. Well, he basically broke down with his head in his hands after reading the title. So yeah, I guess it was pretty accurate. I held him and said we would talk whenever he was ready. After a few minutes, he could collect himself and we went through the whole post together. Then, we started reading the comments one at a time and talking about each one. He took all of the comments and suggestions to heart, and we talked about how he can put himself out there more, both dating and trying to make new friends. In typical nerd fashion, he even broke all the ideas down into categories and is willing to try almost anything. The city he lives in isn't huge, but a quick look through its sub on here found a few things, so the opportunity is there. He seemed a little embarrassed, in a good way, about all of the praise he was getting. I knew he would be, but I just told him that other people see him for the wonderful brother that he is. There were a couple of comments that mentioned suicide or drug abuse that I really pressed him on. He promised he wasn't doing substances or drinking excessively. In all of the times I was at his place, he never had more than a 6-pack of Guinness or some craft beer. This is something I am definitely going to keep on him about, since I don't want him to drink his pain away. He said while he never really thought about actually hurting himself, he said he sometimes feels lost and has dark thoughts that can really mess up his mood, and that he was struggling and very frustrated with himself at times. He said that he often can't even look at himself in a mirror because he is embarrassed at where he is in his life, outside of work, compared to his friends. Really just that his closest friends have all moved on to the next phase of their lives and are stuck and feel left behind and not able to move forward. He is scared that he will turn into one of those people who have their own dedicated sub on here. He often just drives around the city after work for hours because he doesn't want to go home, and every once in a while he said he has gone to bed with the thought that he didn't care if he woke up or not. All of this scared me and broke my heart. He agreed that this isn't healthy and that he needs to seek some professional help soon. We talked about his social life after college. He said that for the first couple of years, his closest friends, and their partners would meet a few times a week and travel somewhere together every few months. He separated from his girlfriend of 4 years in 2019. He and his friends still met up after the lockdown started in 2020, but it became less and less frequent as the friends became more involved with their partners and later kids. Eventually, they were meeting once a month or less. Mike recognized this but said he had a hard time meeting new people to go out with or finding people looking to make new friends instead of just chit-chatting while they did whatever activity they were doing. He said he found it very hard to break into existing friend groups and has some acquaintances but not really anyone to whom he feels close. At the same time, he was going to more and more family functions just to fill a void, be social around people, and dote on our nieces after they were born. After that was gone, he felt completely lost and spiraled down, but didn't know how to communicate how he felt until I forced the issue. It was mentioned that I should not try to keep defending my parents, and I agree. What they wanted to do was inexcusable and unforgivable. I asked Mike if he would ever consider reconciling with the family if they reached out. He said, "Lisa, yes, Mom, maybe, everyone else can fuck off." I was a little surprised and asked why, and he said that they basically told him what they really thought of him and his life and interests. He pulled out his phone and showed me the old texts from when I left. Multiple messages from our father calling him a disgrace, disowning him, demanding he return me to them, calling him the mastermind of this plot to destroy the family, and all sorts of other vile stuff. One uncle mocked his manliness for doing things like reading as well as his career as something not manly enough. One aunt threatened to cut his balls off as they are the source of attitude and disobedience, and another uncle threatened to beat the poop out of him if he saw him again. More of the same from grandparents and some other adults on that side. I had received some nasty messages, just not the threats, and was a little shocked overall, but he just had a little smirk. When I gave him a questioning look, he just said that it's good to know how people really feel and where you stand with them. When I asked about Mom, he showed me her last few messages to him. I was expecting more of the same, but it was much different, and I am unsure what to make of it. She said, "Your father needs you to bring her back right now." Mike, I can't do that. You know if I do, she will never be able to get out. Mom, I know. Please take care of her. I love you both. Mike, I will. I love you too, Mom. NGL, I cried for a bit after that. So yeah, it turns out that my dad's whole family is a lot more toxic and despicable than I thought. I still can't figure out Mom's reaction, though I asked him point blank if he wanted me to take out a loan to cover my expenses for the rest of my time at school, and he rejected that immediately. I said that I didn't want him going into debt for me, and he said that he wasn't. He pulled up his account and showed me the transaction from his savings account to my school last month as proof. He said that he wanted me to be able to finish school debt-free like he did, since it takes so much pressure off. Most of his friends have $40K plus in debt, so even though there is currently a payment pause, eventually, that will come due. I asked him how he was able to do that, and he said he got merit scholarships plus several grants that covered all but about $2,000 per semester, which he could cover himself, and he worked to always have enough money for the difference. We grew up low income, not exactly poverty, but definitely at the low end of the middle class. I would have been eligible for need-based aid as well, but my parents refused to fill out the form, so I wasn't able to get the grants or regular student loans, and they wouldn't co-sign a private loan. This is how they were going to force me to stay. When Mike found out, he did the math and figured out that as long as I was able to keep my scholarship to cover tuition, he would be able to cover the rest. It comes out to about $7,000 a semester that he is covering. I also found out that he is still sending money every month to our sister, something I knew he did before but didn't realize he was still doing. His response was a shrug and a comment that he was pretty sure the kids weren't eating less. We ended up talking a lot longer than I realized, and my roommates came back around 7 and asked if we wanted to get some dinner. I asked Mike if he wanted to stay and keep talking, and he said yes. We ordered some pizza, and the 6 of us sat in our living room to eat. I could tell this was probably Mike's worst-case scenario of being in a group of friends but not really knowing anyone other than me. His body language showed he was uncomfortable and guarded, but my friend Nikki made sure to keep him engaged in the convo, and after 10 to 15 minutes Mike visibly relaxed. He sat back, looked relaxed, and was much more forthcoming. I was so happy for him and thought that maybe he was just someone who needed a little more time to really become comfortable enough before opening up and talking freely with new people. He ended up crashing on our couch that night. Sunday morning, he took me to breakfast to talk some more before dropping me off at work. We had a long hug, and he thanked me for recognizing that he needed help. I told him that I love him and that I am always there for him, and I reminded him that we are a team in this. After work, I called Aunt Kay, and we talked about everything. She was happy that I could get him to open up and understood that it was probably hard for him to ask for help. She will also keep nudging him to be more open and put himself out there more. So this is where we are now. He has some homework to find new things to try out and just get out and meet people. I also told him that he has to have at least 2 dating accounts open before we meet up again, and I would help him set up a good profile. Update 2. 3 years later, this has been the most emotional week of my life. I am sitting here in my aunt's living room, watching my almost 4-year-old niece sleep. I still can't believe it. Mike and I had been planning to visit our grandparents, Aunt Kay, and her family for a while. We left the day after my summer internship ended. We had no idea that they would also be visiting. My mom and Aunt Kay confirmed that they wanted to surprise us. Well, they succeeded. When Mike and I landed, I turned my phone on, and I saw a message from Aunt Kay that was just a selfie of her, my sister, and my mom with a note that just said to have a safe trip and we will see you soon. I almost broke down in the airport and showed Mike the message. He started breathing heavily, but his face was unreadable. I am glad he was driving because I don't know if I would have been able to. When we pulled up to the house, my mom and Lisa basically tackled me in the front yard, eventually pulling Mike into a massive group hug as well. Since then, the week has mostly been talking, laughter, tears, and hugs. Mom and Lisa have taken us aside many times to talk one-to-one, especially Mike. The only negative is that my nieces didn't recognize Mike or me, which is to be expected, I guess, since they were like 8 months old the last time we saw them. I hate that I have missed so much of their lives. They seem to warm up to me in a few days, probably because my mom, Lisa, and I look pretty much alike, only differing in height and hair color. They have yet to really warm up to Mike, but Lisa has repeatedly assured him they will get to know him. So yeah, that's where we are right now. I am completely emotionally drained, but I couldn't be happier. Mike and I head home later today and start my senior year next week. I know I will get to see them regularly. I am glad my mom finally told my father that she will have a relationship with all her kids regardless of how he feels. It feels like that giant void in my life is now gone. Update 3, we are all doing so much better now. They have visited me at school several times this past semester and we all spent Christmas at Mike's house. We are still taking things slow with the kids, but I am getting to know them now and I can't express how happy that makes me.